Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Politics, Culture, and Some Other Shit on the 27th of May, 2024. Hope you're well. It's a bank holiday Monday here in the northern bit of Ireland that is occupied by Great Britain. Butlers, just realised that's in the way. Yeah, it's a nice day. Grass cutting day. Bank holiday Mondays in May, isn't it? That's what you do. Yeah, I hope you had a good weekend. I did. Watched a lot of football this weekend, which was good. Watched Scottish Cup final, the English Cup final. The Scottish Cup final between Celtic and Rangers, which was won by Celtic, has to be said, was one of the worst games of football I think I've ever fucking seen. They were terrible. I watched also, well, they were on at the same time. It was in the Woodville. And they had the English Cup final. Manchester United beat Man City, which came as a surprise to everyone, especially Man City. So fair play to them. That was very, very unexpected result against what can be argued one of the best teams in the world. And at the minute, Manchester United definitely are not that. But they did well. Fair play to them. And then yesterday I watched the second half. I went down to Oxford Sunnyside, my local club, and we watched the senior ladies team play Shorts FC, and they in their league, and they won that handily, 5-1, even though they had two of their key midfielders missing. One of them was out on concussion, what do you call it? The concussion protocol, and one of the other girls has gone on holiday. Both called Nikki, actually. And I brought down the Save Loch Ness banner for a wee photo op with the girls on the teams, and we got that up on the socials. I should have put that on the screen, but I wonder actually could I get that while I'm talking to you. Yeah, so it was very good, a good weekend. Let me just see if this is uploaded to my Google Photos. I'll be able to do it. If not, I can't. Oh, it did. There we go. Brilliant. I'll show you that. I'll download that for you as we stand here, or as we sit here. But yeah, so that was good. And as I said, I did watch quite a lot of football, and it was great. Then we went and watched the match between Leeds and Southampton, where Leeds and Southampton are hoping to get promoted into the Premier League, and Southampton won that 1-0, has to be said, against the flow of play. Sorry about that. Jesus, everyone went a bit wonky there. There we go. Sorry about that. Clicked the wrong thing. Turned everything off. Not to worry. You wouldn't believe how technical all this stuff is. I'll show you this photograph of the girls. The Leeds Southampton match, and it was pretty shit too. It was a pretty poor game. And it has to be said, I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings, but both of those teams are going to go, whoever won that was going to go straight back down again. There we go. There's the picture of the girls on the screen. I'll just resize that for you. So, yeah. And whoever, they're going to go straight back down. There you go. There's the picture. Isn't that class? So I brought the banner down, the Save Loch Ness banner, and that's the Harry Dixon stand down at Oxford Sunnyside FC here in Lurgan, my club, my team that I support. And that's the senior ladies, and they won 5-1 yesterday. And the reason that we have this association with the Save the Loch Ness campaign and the Oxford Sunnyside is Oxford Sunnyside is sort of based around the Loch Ness community, and their badge, the club badge, is a little illustration of a boat on the loch with the reeds and stuff in the background, and you can see it up there. You can't really make it out, but it's up there on the picture. So there we go. And then tomorrow, actually, I'm going to watch Oxford again. The senior men are playing in a playoff for promotion, which is very exciting to get up into the next league, obviously. And they're playing a 2-game playoff with Strabane. I think Strabane United, I think they're called, or Strabane FC maybe. But yeah, so that'll be very, very good. I'm really, really looking forward to that. That's tomorrow night. So if you're in Lurgan, come on down and give the boys a cheer on. It's going to be a great atmosphere. There's going to be lots of people. The whole club's all turning out. I'm going to be volunteering. I'm probably going to be doing steward or something like that. But yeah, it's great crack. So you should come down and support if you can. If you want a game of football to watch on a Tuesday night. And it's very good quality football too, by the way. I will say that. The boys are playing fantastic, attacking, aggressive, high-scoring football. And it's great. It's great fun, great to watch. And great team, great club. So anyway, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Politics, Culture and Some Other Shit. If you want to lend me your support, you can do so for £1 a month over on Patreon. I only have the one tier. That's it. And if you don't want to do that, and I understand because everyone's asking you to do Patreon, you can head over to Buy Me a Coffee. Search for Politics, Culture and Some Other Shit, or the link will be under the show notes. And you can just throw a couple of bucks into the bucket. A one-time thing, no problem. And all the money is gratefully received and appreciated. I use it to do upgrades in my studio, buying microphones and things like that. So I appreciate that. And thank you to the new sign-ups we're getting new sign-ups every week. It's fantastic. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much. And if you don't want to do any of that, please share. You have to share. Share it among your friends. Just share it on the socials. Do the thing, because everyone will tell you this. We're all getting killed by the fucking algorithm. There's literally no point sometimes. Yeah. So here we go. So I got a good podcast planned for you. I think. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about the Rafah bombings that have happened over the weekend. Israel basically dropped. One of the things that they did, they dropped 7. You know those £2,000 bombs that they have. They dropped 7 of them onto refugees in tents in Rafah, and yeah, I've seen some of the footage from it, and I try to avoid that sort of stuff. And it's genuinely breathtakingly heinous and evil. It's stunning. But we'll get to that. Have you heard of Macklemore? He's a rapper. His new song, I'm going to play that for you. I hope it doesn't get this thing demonetized or stuck down or whatever it is. I suspect it might. So what I will probably do is the version that goes up on YouTube, I will cut it out, I think. Or I wonder if I play it, can I talk over the top of it? Does that allow me to do these things, to do this? I'm really not sure. YouTube is very, as with all the social media platforms, they're so, they're so pernickety. You really do have to go on a fucking course to learn how to navigate your way around these places. And it's got to the point now I don't bother. So there's all these different rules, and I don't really read them. I don't care anymore, because they'll have you working for them for free technically, and I'm dead against that. Yeah. So then I'm going to share with you a few things from that I found on Twitter, Instagram, things like that. Mostly a lot about what's going on in Gaza at the minute, but a few other things. But we're going to start with this. Rishi Sunak has called for a general election, and he show you this. Oh, sorry, clicked the wrong thing. That's the Macklemore thing. Let me show you. Yeah, so he did. He's such a tit. Wee rat-faced fucker. Look at him. He that's him there. Given his speech. We'll listen to a bit of his speech that he did in the bloody pouring rain. And
then some. And I have never been prouder to be British. And when I introduced the furlough scheme, I did so not because I saw a country simply in need of desperate help.
It's fucking Will from The In-Betweeners, isn't it? Like, he sounds exactly like him. A little public schoolboy fucking twat. So, listen, I'm not going to make you endure listening to this little rat-faced dickhead. But I want to point you out the video. Those of you that are listening to this, you won't be able to see this, but those of us, you can go and watch this on YouTube as always. But we can see that the top of his shoulders are getting progressively wetter. And I'm going to just bump it forward here right towards the end. And you can see him. He is, by 5 minutes later, I've just skipped the video forward 5 minutes. He is literally fucking soaked to the bones. Right? He is really properly soaked. He's soaking wet. The fucking idiot. And he's standing there. These are the people that are supposed to be in charge of the country, and they couldn't organise an umbrella. They couldn't have done this inside. They've got a big press room in Downing Street. There's lots of options here for this tit. Could have just fucking sent out a letter. Or a press release, sorry. But this is what he decided to do. Unbeknownst, or for reasons unbeknownst to every fucking one of us. So the general gist is, there's a general election on the 4th of July. Rather short notice. I think it worked out about 47 days, which means that all the political parties are now on the war footing. They've got 40 or 50 days to run an election. Some people say that it's too short a time. I personally am not against it. I think it's fine because we don't want to end up in a situation like they have in America where they have these seemingly never-ending election cycles that last 2 years at a time, really. And we don't want that. So there he is turning around to go back into Downing Street looking like a complete fucking tit, which is, of course, what he is. So it gets worse. So I'll show you. I'm going to play you a couple of comedians here. They oh no, where did that go? Hey, what's going on there? Why did that not come up? Oh Christ, there's me hit that thing again. That's that Macklemore song. It's really good. Okay, listen, this I'll have to do. So obviously with him doing this, it's fodder for comedians. And if you're a comedian and you're not taking the piss out of this, I think you should. Although, what do I know? I'm not very funny, and you are. So here's Pod Save the World. This is what they have to say about it.
When I saw Rishi Sunak standing there in the rain, it was incredibly funny.
I sort of understand that I'm predisposed to dislike Rishi Sunak, but that seemed like it went very badly.
A lot of people on Twitter were kind of saying, why would his team let him go outside, given that it had been raining all day long?
Yeah.
And I was like, why would he do that?
Yeah.
Surely you don't need, as a grown adult, to have somebody say to you, look, don't go outside in the rain without an umbrella because you'll get soaking wet. I felt like I saw in his face a moment where he was being drowned out by the 97 Labour anthem, Things Will Only Get Better.
Yeah, that so we should also
was
say
playing loudly from the protesters at the gates of Downing Street. I felt like I saw his soul leave his body, type of thing. You know, there was a moment where you just saw him kind of feel internally crushed, where he was kind of thinking to himself, can't I catch a fucking break?
Listen,
is anything going to go my way?
As someone who has had a few bad gigs in his time, I was looking at it going, he's having a bad gig.
It's in the eyes,
It's
isn't it?
in the eyes.
You just see it. The light goes off.
So that, yeah, actually I wonder should I find that video. I should find that. Actually, I've just fucking took it off my browser, so I'm not going to go looking for it. But yeah, there was a protester out playing Things Can Only Get Better. You know, from the Labour back in the Tony Blair days, as he was giving this speech. And as the next comedian that I'm going to play to you now explains as well, you do think that someone's going to stop it. You think, okay, that's a joke now. Someone's going to go and make him turn that off. No. It was the whole fucking thing. It just, this whole speech was fucking ruined by this guy playing things can only get better as he's calling a general election. So check this out. This is another comedian called Matt Green. So let's see what he has to say.
But it was raining really quite a lot, right? And at first, I think they thought it'll just be a bit of drizzle and it'll be fine. But then it got harder and harder and heavier, and you could sort of sense about maybe 4 minutes into the speech that he was like, should have done this indoors. Or at the very least an umbrella. Surely there's an umbrella, right? Because he just got wetter and wetter and wetter, started looking like he was genuinely in a shower. And then just after he started talking about furlough, music started at the other end of Downing Street. And it was Things Can Only Get Better by Dee Ream, right? Yeah, Labour's classic 1997 campaign song. And it started, and I laughed out loud in my living room. And then it fucking carried on, didn't it? Because at first you thought, oh, this will be like they'll get rid of that very quickly. No, basically almost the entire rest of the speech, which is and he was going, it's a very difficult time at the moment. We've had COVID, we've had and then Putin invaded Ukraine.
In the last
The main
5
thing it reminded me
years,
of
our
is when
country
I've
has
done
fought
like
through the most
gigs at
challenging time.
festivals in the summer, and they put the comedy tent next to the dance tent, right? And you're trying to do your material, and you're going, and the audience are all just like, should we go over there? That looks better. Basically, he said he was going to dissolve Parliament, and it really felt like he was about to dissolve at the same time. And then, you might not have seen this, Keir Starmer then did a sort of response to it about 20 minutes later, and almost to take the piss, he did his indoors, obviously, and there was a kind of pine backdrop, which genuinely made it look like he was doing it in a sauna. As though he'd seen Rishi Sunak going, I bet you want to be warmer, don't you, mate? I'm feeling pretty good here.
So there we go. I've just got that video back, so I'm going to see if I can find you the bit where the protester starts playing Things Can Only Get Better. Check it out.
Since the Second World War.
Let me see.
As I stand, how many times a day we could leave our home, the country. Benefits. And for some, it might still be hard when you look at your bank balance. But this hard-earned economic stability was only ever meant to be the beginning. The question now is how and who do you trust
Did you hear it?
to turn that foundation into a secure future for you, your family, and our country?
It's fucking brilliant. It's really fucking loud as well. And it goes on for the whole fucking thing.
Now is the moment for Britain to choose its future. To decide whether we want to build on the progress we have made or necessary to secure a better future for our country and our children. Now I cannot and will not claim.
It's so funny. I forgot about this actually. I did watch this live, but I didn't see it. I didn't see what was happening. I didn't watch the whole speech. I couldn't listen to that rat-faced wee bastard for any longer than a minute. But I couldn't see, because our TV at home in the living room is broke. We had to get a new TV, and there was all these lines going across. You could still hear it, and you could still see basically what's going on. But you know, you couldn't see the date. So I didn't know it was raining. I couldn't see him getting wetted. so I only found all this out after the fact, whenever, you know, seeing things on Twitter and what have you. So he's such a dick. This is why, one of the reasons, I mean, we think about the last 4 UK Prime Ministers, Theresa May, David Cameron, that woman, what's her name? The 48-day lady. Liz Truss, and now this guy. These people are incompetent, they're stupid, they're greedy, they don't give a shit about their country, or certainly don't care about the people in it. And because their ideology is right-wing and Tory, everything is for sale. And it's not to say that we don't have people with that ideology here in Ireland. We do, of course, plenty of them. But we can't do anything about these ones. Literally nothing. We're all going to, I assume you're going to vote. We're all going to vote in the election. there's no point. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm not telling you not to do it. You should be an engaged citizen in that regard and take part in civic affairs, of course. But it really doesn't matter. It doesn't. It doesn't fucking matter. And this is one of the many practical reasons as to why I want a united Ireland for the beyond the obvious, beyond the emotional, historical, and the because it's the right thing to do. But that is one of the practical reasons as to why. Now, I've had a conversation with someone that used to be an advisor over in Westminster, and they were, I think they were an advisor to SDLP, and they said, oh no, they were sort of slagging off criticising Sinn Féin's abstentionism. As you know, Sinn Féin don't take their seats because for various reasons, one of which is that they're not going to swear allegiance to a British monarch, obviously, and they don't think that Irish people should have any say in the affairs of the English, which is fair enough. In my opinion, I think that's very good. But he was saying, oh, no. He was sort of arguing the opposite. He was saying, no, there's lots of stuff goes on, and Sinn Féin do get involved in British politics because they do have offices in London, and they talk. And I sort of felt that he had sort of contradicted himself. He's my friend. I'm not going to jump all over him, but I felt like he contradicted himself a little bit because the if they do get good work done over in the British Parliament by not attending the British Parliament, do you know what I mean? And they do have offices, and they do go and see people, and they do have meetings, and they do. Well, that sounds like an embassy more than taking part in a parliament. So yeah, but whatever. So yeah, so there we go. Now, what you must understand is the reason as to why Rishi Sunak has called this election. He was about to have votes of no confidence, that he was going to have to call it, really, or not call the election. He was going to face a leadership challenge, which would have meant another prime minister. So he decided to fucking torpedo the Tories by calling an election in about the day after tomorrow. It's so funny, and they're going to get fucking wiped out. Now, the good thing about that is Tories are going to get wiped out. Self-explanatory. The bad thing is that the Red Tories, which is the modern Labour Party, look like, they're massively ahead in the polls, and they're clearly going to win the election. I can't. Even their heartiest detractors wouldn't deny that. Or can't see anything beyond that. But the downside of it is that they're just red Tories, and they mightn't be just as bad. Maybe the decline into dystopian Britain might just be a little slower. Is all that's going to happen here. I really, Keir Starmer has betrayed and backslid and lied and withdrawn every promise that he's made. The 10 pledges and the Corbyn manifesto and all that sort of stuff have all been abandoned. So I don't see any hope there. The only hope that I can see, and it's one that I would, again, it doesn't matter. Us here in Ireland, it doesn't fucking matter to us. We've got no say. We'll send over 18 MPs or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't even know how many there is from here. I think it's, what is it? It is something like that, 18, 20, something like that. It doesn't fucking matter. Half of them, being Sinn Féin, aren't going to attend Parliament anyway. And the other half, whenever they do attend, no one listens to them. No one cares. As Sarah O'Neill, your friend and mine, points out on Twitter regularly, you just have to look at the attendance at Northern Ireland Questions. The fucking place just empties. It literally just empties. It is rather embarrassing. So, but the only good thing I can see happening I hope is going to happen is there's going to be the British people are fed up with the two-party system, the two-party state, the duopoly. Much as America literally has a duopoly, but British politics is very much dominated, obviously, as you know, by two big parties. Although there are other significant parties, Scottish nationalists and stuff, and Lib Dems and the Greens, and they do get a good vote share. So the only thing I can think that might happen that would be good is that people are fed up with them, so they'll vote independent, or they'll vote the alternatives. I'm not voting for either of those two fuckers, and they'll just vote for somebody else and turn away from those two in enough numbers to cause a hung parliament, which is where no one party has a clear majority, 50% plus one, that sort of a thing. George Galloway's Workers' Party of Britain are making great inroads into that, although they are running, I think, 200 candidates in across England and I think Scotland and Wales. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just England. But the likelihood is that they're not going to get any more than George Galloway elected. George Galloway, as you know, was elected recently, which is fantastic. Even if you don't like him, just as a wrecker, it's fantastic. It's good to have him in there. He is a very good parliamentarian and he's a fantastic speaker. Whether you agree with him or whether you don't, that's not the point. But maybe a hung parliament might be something that we could hope for, which means that Keir Starmer won't have a clear majority and he will have to form some sort of a coalition, as David Cameron's first term had to do with the Lib Dems. Remember Nick Clegg? Remember him? He went on to become the chief CEO of something for Facebook. Yeah, fucking scratch a liberal and a fascist fucking will raise his head. So that's what he did. Now, Rishi Sunak has called this, as I think he's called it, in an act of fucking revenge. And by the way, you see when he loses his seat, the Tories they're in fucking trouble. They are really, really in trouble. There are hundreds of Tories going to lose their seats. They have what is there 650 or something in Parliament. 650 MPs. I think they have something like 300 and plus 320 or something like that. And they're talking about a fucking decimation. Like hundreds are going to lose their seat. And a lot of them aren't even standing. Michael Gove, most notably, who is a big senior Tory figure, isn't standing. Andrea Leadsom, I think she's abandoned it as well. She's given up because they know they're going to get their asses kicked, so they're not even bothering fighting, which is brilliant. It's really noble and patriotic, isn't it? So yeah. So now this, I'm going to finish up with this Rishi Sunak bit and the general election. So I think he's announced one of the mainstays of, and here it is, one of the mainstays or the main policies that the Tory party is going to run on, and it's he's going to reintroduce national service. Now, I think he's doing this on purpose because this is such a fucking horrible idea. I think it's genuinely an attempt to do more damage to the Tory party because there's no way this is going to fucking land on the doorsteps. You're going to get a few people who, by the way, have never done national service, are going to, old white fucking gammons and all that sort of stuff. Oh, that's a fucking great idea. But that, they were all going to vote Tory anyway. Everyone else is going, fuck that. Fucking national service. The last people that did national service were born in 1938. National service was done away with in the late 50s. So this isn't the thing that we have a grasp of. It's almost like, it's a mythology. Almost, because it's that long ago. Although there are still some people alive, obviously, that did this. And I'm sure they say it's a great thing. I'm sure a lot of them will say it's a great thing. But this is also you got to remember as well, this is also down to this is also in an era where we're stoking up third world wars with China and Russia. We've set the Middle East alight again, or at least given Israel the money and the weaponry so they can do it for us. And we're now saying that we're going to forcibly recruit your children to be cannon fodder in World War III. Vote for me. No, get fucked. So I do genuinely think he's done this on purpose. I do. I seriously think he's done this on purpose. Because we're never going to see him again. He's out of here. He's Silicon Valley, baby. He's gone. He's going to lose his seat on the 5th of what date was it? 5th of July. Yeah, 5th of July. He's gone. We'll never see. Rishi Sunak will be a footnote in history. He will go to Silicon Valley and continue to make vast fortunes, of which he already has. But these greedy motherfuckers is never enough. So here's the article. And yes, as I said, I think he's done it on purpose to do as much damage as possible to the Tory party. I think because the sort of, et tu, Brute, stabbed them in the back and all that sort of stuff. But he is a fucking idiot. What do you think's going to happen? And one thing about the Tories is the Tories are great at holding rank. They don't. We lefties, we fight like fuck with each other, and we get into these colour wars and fucking civil wars with each other. What Marx calls the pettiness of small differences. Was that it? Yeah, the pettiness of small differences. The narcissism of small differences, and we do that constantly and snipe at each other. They don't believe exactly what I believe in, and therefore they're tanky, or they're fucking this or that. But the right don't do that. The Tories don't do that. They hold the rank, and they'll all form one coalition together, and they'll stay. Even they may not just agree exactly, but they'll keep stum and until the end comes. Then they fight like fucking rats in a sack, and they are ruthless. Just look back at Tory party history. Look at Margaret Thatcher, and ruthless. They didn't give that woman fucking. Depending on your perspective, but I don't mean she ruined fucking the UK such as it was, and she just opened up the markets. The public sector just dropped private finance right into a big private finance bomb right into the middle of it, of which Tony Blair and New Labour of the late 90s continued, of course, as we know. But whenever they were done with her, she was out the fucking door, and she was never. I don't think she was hurt. She didn't do much after that. She was out. So they are ruthless, and that's what this is. They're just like, wait, you're out of here, so I'm away. And I think he's literally. This is the stupidest fucking policy that has. It's insane, and I know plenty of politicians talk about this stuff, but they don't. They don't put it into an election campaign. They'll talk about it in between. Maybe we should, but they don't do it. Well, he's done it, and it's a disaster. It's going to be a disaster. So here's an article from the Financial Times. Rishi Sunak has vowed to introduce mandatory national service for 18-year-olds if he's re-elected. In his first major policy announcement since the start of the election campaign earlier this week. It's so fucking. I just have this fucking thing playing out in my head where the Tory party is designed and sort of it's organised by a thing called the 1922 committee, and they're these the old boys network of the Tory party. And they determine really, what the party's doing, and are the people that's running it, are they doing a good job or not? And they're the ones that can make the decision whether they get you in or get you out. And if they get a certain number of letters, or like official letters, then they can instigate a vote of no confidence. And apparently, the leader of the 1922 committee had just announced that they were going to allow votes of a letter of no confidence to be done by text, which was basically meant a barrage of fucking people just sending in texts. They could do it by text, and this is what sparked Sunak then to call the election, which by all accounts has taken everybody, including the Tory party, by surprise. So this is him. I think this is him just fucking them back. They fucked them, so he's going to fuck them back. I think this is what this is. I don't know. I just suspect that this is because this doesn't make any fucking sense. National service? Are you mental? So, back to the article. The move is part of what he said was an effort to provide scrutiny and opportunity in an increasingly uncertain world. Sunak plans to require 18-year-olds to work with the armed forces on 12-month placement or carry out community work in a bid to reinforce his claim that he is best placed to increase security in the UK. So he wants to recruit your children. He wants to recruit your young adults. 18-year-olds is what they are. Your 18-year-olds to go and fight in a proxy war, so that Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and a myriad of other military-industrial complex ghouls can start wars all over the planet, increasingly in places that you've never fucking heard of, that you didn't even know existed, and they're going to send your children out there as cannon fodder, just so that they can continue to watch their stock price soar. That's what this is. Or the second part of it, or to carry out community work, so to get them to work for free. Give them a fucking job. If you're going to give them the work, you have to pay them. Right? So that's it. So you can send them off to die in a war, or you can get them to sweep the streets for nothing. It's, it's not. I mean, it's not going to happen. They're not going to win the election anyway. It's kind of a moot point, but it just shows you the insanity of these fuckers. But here we go. I'll read another little bit. I'm not going to read the whole article. It's too fucking funny. Generations of young people have not had the opportunities or experience they deserve, and there are forces trying to divide our society in this increasingly uncertain world, Sunak said. Well, I agree with every word of that. I just think that I would come at it from a different position to Sunak. Generations of young people have not had the opportunities or experience they deserve. True. Whose fault's that? And there are forces trying to divide our society in this increasingly uncertain world. Again, absolutely true. People like him, fucking capitalism and their fucking death cult ideology. National service was abolished in Britain in 1960. There you go. But there has been pressure from leading figures in the UK military for young people to be prepared for the possibility of war. And that's the other thing as well. There is a recruitment problem within the military infrastructures across the West, the US in particular, and the UK is no different. People aren't just saying, I'm not fucking doing this. I'm not going to go and join the army or the Navy or the Air Force in order to go and be murdered by the Russians. Not happening. And who can blame them? And whenever you talk about things, patriotism and jingoism and things like that, what is patriotism? What is your country? We know what James Connolly says about it. I paraphrase and I'll fucking get this completely fucking ass backwards, but he says something along, basically the guy whose heart is overflowing with love for Ireland but can step over fucking people lying in the street. Fuck that cunt. That's not patriotism. Patriotism is looking after the people, the land, the people that are in the land. The land without the people is not a country. It's just a big lump of land. It's the people that are the country. And we're forged by each other. We're shaped by one another. The land forges the people, and the people shape the land. We know this. But jingoism and patriotism in times like this, where I've been talking about it quite a lot on this podcast this past number of weeks, where we're watching the students in the US and across the world rise up in a form of peaceful rebellion against the ongoing massacres and genocide in Gaza. And the people that run the country, that wave the flags, that insist that you do the same, their response is to send in militarised armed police to crack their fucking skulls and then to threaten them with blacklisting for the rest of their lives. That's your country right there. That's what your patriotism. And then you say, "We'll tell you what. Why don't you come over here and join the army so we can send you out to Ukraine to be murdered?" And you're like, no, fuck off. Not happening. So there's a lot of threads, a lot of ins, a lot of outs, but that's basically where we are. So, I'm not going to read any more of that. General Sir Patrick Sanders, head of the British Army, talking in January about the need for the UK's pre-war generation to prepare for the possibility of future conflict, adding that there needed to be a whole national undertaking. Right, so there we go. Not happening. But I'll shut these wee videos down. So there we go. So that's that. General election, and we're all going to have to we're all going to have to join the army. Yeah, I do think that he's done it on purpose, though. I think the Tories are fucked anyway. This thing isn't going to happen, but we'll see. Although I wouldn't be one bit. Yeah, it's interesting. I think a good way of looking at this too is we need to look at it to see what Keir Starmer's going to do. He'll probably pick this up and run with it, because he's abandoned everything, every left pledge that he made. So he'll probably start taking on a few more fucking Tory ones. He may as well. So there we go. Right. Onwards, Christian soldiers. Let's go. So, what have I got next for you? Yeah. So Gaza and the Palestine issue and the slaughter of innocents seems to be showing, as they say, no signs of abatement. And each day brings with it increasing horrors and unbelievable acts of cruelty, unnecessary cruelty, with that end up in the most well, basically, everything ends up in the worst way that the thing can end up with, and that's in the worst. I'm mangling this because I'm fucking. Oh, so it's so emotional. Basically, it's ending up because people are being killed. They're losing their precious lives in increasing thousands as the days, weeks, and months are rolling by. Don't know what the official number is. It's 35,000 or 40,000, something like that. And every time Israel seems to dig itself deeper and deeper into the pit of hell, their defiance when they come out, when challenged, which isn't often nor strongly enough, if by a long way, if you ask me, their response is defiance, and they just doubling down. So last week, the ICC issued arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and his prime minister, something like that, his deputy, his second in command, or whatever. And this was Israel's response, that they decided that the thing to do was to bomb a refugee camp. Now, this has to be one of the worst crimes that of many that the Palestinians have had to endure this past little while. So this is an article on Al Jazeera, and I'm going to play you the Al Jazeera news report. It's 3 minutes, as you can see on the screen there, and you'll be able to listen to this on the podcast. And those of you watching this on the YouTube, I don't think I'm going to have to give you any trigger warnings, but there are scenes of destruction in the video. So if you don't want to see those, you should look away now.
This is what Israeli forces had declared a safe zone, one of the largest camps for displaced people in Rafah, struck by missiles in an attack by Israeli forces, killing dozens of people and injuring many more. Fires quickly spread through the cloth tents, and families sheltering there had little protection.
Most of the bodies were charred and burned, while injured people lost limbs and suffered other injuries due to the use of potentially prohibited weapons that caused a massive fire which erupted.
Many of the injured, including young children, were rushed to the Kuwaiti hospital with severe burns. This is the only hospital still functioning in Rafah, but it doesn't have the resources to care for all the injured.
They burned people. They burned them. They burned an entire block in Tal al-Sultan. What else do you want me to say? I cannot say anything. Missiles came crashing down on an entire block and people were burned. Go and see what happened to people.
The attack comes after the International Court of Justice ruling on Friday, ordering Israel to stop its assault on Rafah, where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are sheltering.
This horrifying massacre sends a clear message from the Israeli occupation and the U.S. administration to the International Criminal Court, and this message says that the Holocaust of Palestinian civilians will continue and massacres against displaced people will continue.
The Israeli military claims the strike targeted Hamas fighters, but admitted civilians were also hurt, and says it's reviewing the incident. Hamas issued a statement describing the attack as a massacre and demanding that the ICJ ruling is implemented. But Israel will come under scrutiny to explain why what it calls precision weaponry is killing large number of Palestinians sheltering in tented camps.
This could be evidence of plausible genocide before the International Court of Justice, but could also be evidence for the Office of the Prosecutor in relation to the crimes that the prosecutor has already brought to the attention of the trial judges, which include intentional attacks against civilians, but also the crime against humanity of extermination.
Israel has been warned repeatedly by the UN and its own allies that an assault on Rafah will result in a humanitarian disaster. None of that international pressure has so far stopped its attacks that are burning innocent Palestinians sheltering in their makeshift homes. Hind al-Khudari, Deir al-Balah, Gaza, Palestine.
So there you go. From the article, several countries and global organisations have condemned the Israeli air attack on tents housing displaced people in Gaza's southernmost city of Rafah that killed at least 40 Palestinians. Now, the Israelis told the refugees to go here. This was a designated safe zone. The Palestinian presidency on Monday accused Israel of deliberately targeting civilians, joining a chorus of worldwide condemnation following the attack. And there's a map on the screen of the city of the area, and you can see exactly what they've done here, where they've targeted and where they dropped these bombs. They dropped these bombs onto tents, and they knew what they were doing. They did it deliberately. The perpetration of this heinous massacre by the Israeli occupation forces is a challenge to all international legitimacy resolutions, the Palestinian presidency said in a statement, accusing the Israeli forces of deliberately targeting the tents of displaced people. I mean, that is fucking breathtaking. There's another video here of the fires.
This is what Israeli forces have declared a safe.
Oh, right. Put that down there again. So you can see, yeah, it's the same video. Just stop it. And the Palestinian presidency says it is a challenge to all. Where's the bit of red? I've just gone over it again. In a statement on X, the United Nations Palestinian Refugee Agency, UNRWA, said that the images from Rafah are yet another testament that Gaza is hell on earth. And just on that, UNRWA, as we know, is the United Nations Refugee Relief Agency, the official agency that takes care of these things, that was accused, do you remember, a few months back, it got defunded because they accused some people that working for UNRWA to be in Hamas. So immediately everyone just sprung on the action and just immediately condemned UNRWA, defunded them within the day. Within 24 hours, that was it. A few countries stepped up and said that they were going to carry on, including Ireland, thank God, and Spain and a few others. And since the Rafah attack, Italy has now stepped up and said that they're going to start they have decided to refund. And you got to remember, Italy is its government is a right wing government, so they have at the minute they have stepped up and what's the word I'm looking for? They basically started to refund that or fund that organisation. Yeah, so it's a deliberate bombardment. It being condemned around the world. Qatar condemned the Rafah attack as a grave violation of international laws. It will aggravate the humanitarian crisis in the besieged Gaza Strip. Egypt condemned it as a deliberate bombardment. In a statement to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, called on Israel to implement the measures ordered by the International Court of Justice. And by the way, if anybody comes and if you're having a discussion, debate, or an argument with anyone about this stuff, and they say, sure, look, these people are what they in an attempt to degrade and dehumanize the Palestinian people. You'll hear them say things like, sure, even Egypt doesn't want them. No one will take them. Well, first of all, why should anybody have to take them? Why should they be forced? They're being forced out of their own country. And second of all, there's 1.5 million of them. No one can do that. You can't. No one. Even the biggest countries in the world couldn't just absorb 1.5 million people overnight. It's just not going to happen. It can't be done. So that's another false argument that people throw out to confuse and, importantly, further dehumanize, try an attempt to dehumanize the bravest people in the world, the Palestinians. Back onto the article. Turkish President Erdogan, he says his country would do everything to hold Mubarak, Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu to account. Spain's Foreign Minister Jose Manuel Alvarez said the bombing of Rafah was one more day with innocent Palestinian civilians being killed. The gravity of the attack is even larger because it comes after the ICJ order directing Israel to halt its operation. So that's what I was saying earlier, right? with the arrest warrant being issued for Netanyahu. And you got to remember, they issued the arrest warrant. The ICC initiated the international arrest warrant for Netanyahu and his deputy. The ICJ ordered Israel to halt its operation in Rafah and the rest of Gaza, and then the next day they literally do the opposite. They bomb Rafah like this. Ireland's Foreign Minister Micheál Martin described the attack as barbaric. One cannot bomb an area like that without shocking consequences in terms of innocent children and civilians. We would urge Israel to stop now in terms of the military operation. Norway's Foreign Minister Espen Barth Eide said the attacks are a material breach of the decision of the highest court of the world, to which Israel is a signatory, by the way. Israel is one of the signatories to the ICJ. But that means that you agree to abide by its rulings. That's the part of the deal, the dealio. We've had a compulsory order from the International Court of Justice ordering Israel to stop its attack in Rafah. It is compulsory. It is binding. European Union's Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said Israel must abide by the ICJ. Fucking EU. EU is unbelievable at the minute. Jeremy Corbyn, the former leader of the United Kingdom's Labour Party, labelled Israel's bombing of the Rafah camp as a monstrous failure of humanity. That is true. In one of the strongest criticisms Italy has made so far, Defence Minister Guido Crosetto said the Israeli attacks were no longer justifiable. There is an increasingly difficult situation in which the Palestinian people are being squeezed without regard for the rights of innocent men, women and children who have nothing to do with Hamas, and this can no longer be justified. So it goes on. Yeah, there's even Ro Khanna, who is a US House representative, has called for Benjamin Netanyahu to immediately halt. Canadians Jagmeet Singh, similar. Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights, she's a good one. In the Palestinian territory, described Israel's attack on the tent camp in Rafah as unacceptable. In a post on X, she wrote, "The Gaza genocide will not easily end without external pressure. Israel must face sanctions," and just goes on. So Doctors Without Borders, UNRWA, another UN Special Rapporteur to the White House, ActionAid, Palestinian Centre for Human Rights, so on and so forth, African Union Commission, French President Emmanuel Macron, even Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. So you can see how monstrous that is. And now I can show you this on my phone, but I sign up to a thing on Instagram called daily updates. Let's Talk Palestine, daily updates, and I get a message every day in my Instagram, just letting you know what's happened over the past 24 hours. So this is today's. I'm going to read this out to you. It's short, don't worry. Just a few bullet points. Israel has already bombed shelters housing displaced Palestinians in other areas, including Jabalia, Nuseirat and Gaza City, killing at least 160 in the past weeks. 81 Palestinians killed, 223 injured in Gaza in the past 24 hours. Hamas launched 8 rockets at Tel Aviv yesterday for the first time in 6 months from Rafah. Not from the tents, not from the refugee camp. So I had this thing with my dad this morning, and he was saying, well, what do you expect Israel to do whenever they're getting rockets fired at them? These people didn't fire the rockets, and they never came from these tents. They might have come from Rafah, the town, but it wasn't from here. Its capacity to launch long-range projectiles after 7 months of genocide shocked Israel, as many assumed Hamas capabilities were degraded. I'm going to show you another little video in a minute about that. Israel attacked homes, including several, and injuring many in North Gaza. This is a separate attack somewhere else. 12 plus Palestinians killed in an attack on Jabalia amid an ongoing invasion. 200 aid trucks, 4 with fuel, meant to enter Gaza via the Karim Abu Salim crossing, came from Egypt, but none came in. Israeli forces raid Jenin. Days after the raid, they killed 12 Palestinians, this time abducting 2 Palestinians. Israeli bulldozers demolish infrastructure, and the IOF, Israeli Occupation Forces, not the IDF as they call themselves, IOF snipers on rooftops, clashes with local resistance fighters as they strike Israeli tanks with homemade explosives. Now, this is amazing. So, let me just get you the video here. Is that it? No, I think it's this. No. Yeah. Electronic Intifada, yeah, that's it. Why are you not coming up? Oh, why do you mess with me so? There we go. That should be you now. There we go. Sometimes OBS just sort of shits itself a little bit. So, if you do social media and you want another account to follow, I would recommend these guys. They're called Electronic Intifada. Now, before anybody gets their fucking panties in a knot, Intifada means rebellion. Okay? It is an Arabic word, but that's okay. We're all adults. Okay? We can endure an adult word being used, an Arabic word being used, because we're all grown-ups. So, these guys are all over everything. They're on. Let me see. I'll just see if I can get another video for you. They're all over the socials. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. So I'm showing you these YouTube videos.
The Kazan Brigades.
Now, you can watch these without adverts because no advertiser wants to have their videos or their product associated with these guys. So what these guys do is they take the footage that is provided to, not specifically to them, it's put out in a press release from inside Palestine of the fighters. They wear like body cams and things like that, and then they show you them carrying out their actions, and they break it down. Now, these YouTube videos, to keep inside the YouTube censor and for their what they call the community guidelines, they edit out the gore and any killings, any actual moments of death that that do occur in the videos that they show. But if you want to see the unedited versions, follow them on Twitter. The Electronic Intifada. 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 The Electronic Intifada. So they have the unedited versions on Twitter. But the video that I have here is on YouTube, and I'm just going to play it and give you. I'm not going to play the whole thing. This is just a quick recommendation, and you can see this guy. This is John Elmer, who's your host for this, and he tells you what they're going to do, and they break down the footage that these guys provide, and it is unbelievable. I'd heard of Electronic Intifada, of course, but I'd never actually. I think I'd followed them and I hadn't really checked them out. But I got reminded of them a few weeks ago up at a protest in the middle of the town, the anniversary of the 76th anniversary of the Nakba, that we had a protest here in the town centre. And I was reminded of this, and I must go straight enough. I haven't checked them out, and it's absolutely fucking amazing. So I've just randomly clicked this video here. It shows you stuff like from snipers and things. So it shows you like a sniper taking out. Let me see if I can find one of those. Don't worry, there's no gore. I don't like that. I can't watch that stuff. Where is the... I'll just see if I can find... one of the sniper videos, which is fucking amazing. No. Sorry, bear with me, please. Just trying to see. No. Oh yeah. This isn't one of those fierce resistance missile strikes. Yeah, I really want to see if I could get one of these for you. I know, because I know you kind of dig it. This one will do. Okay. So this is titled "Fighters Hand Deliver Explosive to Israeli Tanks." So check it out.
A video of their medevac units this week. This is IDF propaganda footage that they release, and it says footage from life-saving IDF evacuation missions from the last week in Gaza. IDF rescue helicopter squadrons, medical corps teams, and technological logistics directorate and Unit 669 have carried out dozens of evacuations of injured soldiers from areas of operations over this past week alone, while providing advanced life-saving.
So yeah, so he goes through all the military footage. Obviously, there's some stuff here from the AOF, but he focuses mostly on the Hamas. It's not necessarily Hamas. There's lots of different groups within the territory fighting. They're not all Hamas, by the way. So check this out. Watch this video. What you're about to see here is fucking amazing. This dude is in a trench or a tunnel, and he's running across this fucking barren landscape to place a bomb beside a tank, an unexploded a device that's going to be detonated. It's fucking unreal. Check it out. I'll just pop this up for you. Check it out. So there he is there, and John's going to explain. The guy's called John Elmer. He's going to explain
Further in the north. So if we look at the first one from Rafah here, Tamara, the this video came out yesterday. We're going to show it first just because it's incredible. So you see a fighter coming out of a tunnel here within, I don't know, 30 feet of a tank. He jumps up with his Shawad explosively formed penetrator, the most devastating anti-armor weapon in the Qassam catalog. He places it behind the back door of the tank. We'll watch this one a few times because there's a lot of details that I want to focus in on. But you can see him get down into the tunnel, and you can see the explosion go off there as they're running away. So we'll just loop that back around. So you see him come up. The fighter's got a helmet cam here. He comes up, checks the scene, sees the tank right there. This tunnel has been dug open this morning. You can see his shadow. He's now running with this heavy canister, and he puts it 1.5 meters behind the back door. That is the optimal distance that they are trained with the Shawaz 3. That's the distance that they want to be behind the tank to place the device, because the device is an explosively formed penetrator. It's a shaped charge, and it needs time and space to fully form. So there's some devices that we've seen them attach straight on the tank. With this Shawaz 3, they're looking to get between a meter and a meter and a half away from the back of the tank. At the back of the tank is the ammo storage. The back of the tank is the back door where the crew of the tank is, not the infantry, but the crew. So the commander, the driver, the gunners are in the back of the tank. The back of the tank is the weakest point of the vehicle.
So there you go. Isn't that amazing? I'll just let that play while I talk. So go check those guys out, Electronic Intifada, and they break down, like he just explained there, that what this device is and where's and why's and how's and all that sort of stuff. And one of the things he explained, I don't know if it was in this video or another one I watched, you would expect from you and I, watching war movies and things, we would expect to see infantry walking alongside the tank, don't you? Isn't that what you think of when you see a tank going through a battle zone? Well, they don't do that in this instance in Gaza, and because they're getting taken out by the snipers, the Palestinian snipers apparently, and I've seen a few videos of that, not the gore ones, the technical ones. They're fucking lethal. and they're taking out the foot soldiers. So these tanks are being sent in, and the armored troop personnel carriers, but they're basically they're getting sent in to be cooked alive. That's what happens. It's a horrible way to die, I'm sure. Well, I know it is from what from watching a few of these videos, but that's what's happening. So Israel isn't getting everything its own way, and as is the way with the West, our response to warfare is to generally stay in the air and bomb things from afar, because when we send in troops, it doesn't go well. So go and check those guys out. I would recommend you. It's absolutely fascinating. As I said, if you don't want to see the gore, if you're not into that, not that you're in, I don't mean if you're into that, if it's something you don't like to see, watch them on YouTube. You can watch them, and they are edited that you don't see anything horrible like that. I'm not into. I don't like that. I personally don't watch them on Twitter myself. I watch them on YouTube. If I watch them, I've only, as I said, I only rediscovered them last week. Yeah, but it is fascinating to see these guys fighting and what they're doing. It's remarkable, and they're filming everything. Everything is filmed. They've body cams, helmet cams, and quite often there are multi-camera setups. Static cams sort of strapped to things, and they're doing it for the propaganda war. Obviously, they're getting this footage, they're editing it and sending it out into the world. They're doing everything they can, I suppose, and that is one of those things that they can do. So yeah, if you're not into it, don't go to Twitter. If you don't mind, or if you don't mind, go to Twitter. If you're not into it, go to YouTube. I can't abide it myself. I always remember people saying, "Did you see that video of when the Al Qaeda cut that dude's head off?" No, I fucking didn't. Do you want to see it? Look at it. No, fuck off. I don't want to see it. I've never watched any of those. I'm not slagging you off or anything if you have or you do, but that's not for me. It's not for me at all. I've never seen one. Don't want to see one. So, just going to finish up. Here is a few. So, even people like Piers Morgan, you can see his post on Instagram. This is from an account called Mideast Eye. Has balked. Now, Piers Morgan is definitely what you would call a Marmite character, and I certainly come down on the side of I'm one of the ones that don't like him. But I don't think he's as bad. His take is generally shit, but he's not. I don't think he's just as bad as he gets made out to be. But the problem is that he will call this out, and then he will then have somebody an interview on, and he will sort of flip this. He's like, is this the same fucking guy? So what he said here, even Piers Morgan has said, the scenes from Rafah overnight are horrific. I've defended Israel's right to defend itself after October the 7th, but slaughtering so many innocent people as they cower in a refugee camp is indefensible. So kudos. Listen, broken clock is right twice a day, and whenever when someone says the right thing, you have to I would advise you to say fair play to you, even if you don't agree with everything that they say. So just on the Piers Morgan thing there, everything that happened from October the 7th, so that's a big thing. Whenever you hear people talking, they'll say they'll use this justification. They use the justification of October the 7th for everything. Now, there are a couple of ways you can deal with that. See, this is why you come here. You get this good advice. This is how you deal with that. Someone says, but look what Hamas did on October the 7th. Right? There's two ways of dealing with that, and this is one of them. Check this guy out.
You keep saying, what about October 7th? What about October 7th? What about October 8th? What about October 9th? What about October 10th? What about October 11th? What about October 12th? What about October 13th? What about October 14th? What about October 15th? What about October 16th? What about October 17th? What about October 18th? What about October 19th? What about October 20th? What about October 21st? What about October 22nd? Let me finish the question. Let me finish answering. What about October 23rd? What about October 24th? What about October 25th? What about October 26th? What about October 27th? What about October 28th? What about October 29th? What about October 30th? What about October 31st? What about November 1st? What about November...
There we go. That's how we deal with that. So whenever everyone, and obviously then you can go back. What about October 7th? What about October 6th? What about October 5th, 4th, 5th? I was thinking when he got to the end of the month there, he was going to overshoot it. I was trying to do what he was doing and then remind myself how many days is in October. That's how you deal with that. That's how you deal with that. Okay? We can go into the detail, we can go into the masses, we can go into the arguments, we can read the article from Associated Press, which completely discredits the whole Hamas raping babies and all, putting babies and things. We can go into all that detail, which has happened, but you probably won't get that opportunity. This is how you deal with that question. Hamas aren't LGBTQ friendly. They're anti-gay and all the rest of it. They said, well, yes. So we should bomb their children to death. That's what we should do, because Hamas aren't liberal as us. We should murder their kids and their wives. That's the answer to that one. Of course, we should blow their children up. Hamas aren't an ally to the gay people. Oh, okay, we should murder their kids. Okay. Clearly, that's the answer. So that's how you deal with that. See, it's fucking brilliant here. So check this out. Now, this was class. Just going to blast you through a couple of the wee social media finds, the little gems that I found during the week. As you know, I mentioned at the start of the pod, Manchester United and Man City played in the FA Cup final on Saturday afternoon. And Man City lost. Man City's manager is a dude called Pep Guardiola. And this is him going up. I'll turn the music off. This is him going up along the thing to get their runner-up medals, is what they got, obviously. And they shake hands with all the dignitaries. But he, watch the video, he misses one out. He looks away and cruises past this dude and shakes everybody's hands either side of him. And the reason is because he's an Israeli. So that's very cool. And Pep Guardiola is a very cool guy. And I like that. And that's the way we should be treating Israel, with the contempt that they deserve. Now, I found so many of these little video things, and I could just go on all day just playing these little snippets. There's the bit I was saying to you about Hamas. Oh, sorry, let me get that back up again. Hamas calls on leaders to apologise after AP, which is Associated Press, debunks widespread sexual assault allegations. Hamas has welcomed an Associated Press report published on Wednesday that said, as last Wednesday, that's debunked allegations of sexual violence perpetrated by Palestinian fighters on the 7th of October. The report published by the American Associated Press agency, in which it confirmed that the allegations of the Zionist entity that the Palestinian resistance committed sexual violence on the 7th of October are not true, and that they were deliberately fabricated, is a new slap in the face of the promoters of these baseless allegations, the Hamas statement said. And this is the shocking thing is, you will still hear that get trotted out on the mainstream news. Like, you watch the BBC or the Sky, which I don't. I only see these things in clips that other people post up, because I choose to not have poison and lies poured into my ear daily. These allegations and justifications for that have resulted in accusations of genocide, have resulted in international arrest warrants being issued for the Prime Minister of Israel, and most importantly have resulted in so far almost 40,000 people that we know of. There's going to be a lot more than that. Men, mostly women and children, but men, women and children. 40,000 dead. That accusation is what's rolled out as the justification for all of that. It's beyond staggering. So there, whenever you're debating these people, if you've got any people in your own family, and listen, I'm going to tell you this: do yourselves a favour. Don't fall out. Disagree. We're grown-ups. If we have to be a little bit flexible. Now, we're not talking about if you're talking with a out-and-out fascist Zio bitch. Fuck those chuds. Fuck them. If you're talking to your family members that watch the Sky News or BBC News or whatever it is, and even those Sky News is even putting out, starting to condemn in a more rounded, a proper fashion. But if they're saying things like this, but what about October the 7th, and what about Hamas doesn't like the gays, and what, just give use those points that I'm giving you to argue back, if you like, but don't be falling out with them. My dad, I have discussions with my dad all the time, and he's an older guy, and he has a certain view, and he's very sympathetic to what's going on with the Palestinians, and he condemns it outright. It's terrible, but there's always a but Hamas did, and but the, you know what I mean. And I disagree, and we make a cup of tea, and we don't fall out with each other. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not falling out with my dad over this, because it's not going to achieve anything, and it's just going to make me sad and make him sad too. So I want to show you this now. I would love to. I might show you this whole video in the next podcast because it's that good. Now, there's a young girl here. I'll just pull this video up. What is her name? Oh God! I think I have it on the Twitter actually. Let me just see. Sorry, bear with me. So this girl went on. Now, James Whale, I don't know if you know who James Whale is. I'll just do it here because I've got this. Fiona Lally. So she's a member of the Communist Party of Britain, I think. And she is a very, very eloquent and a good speaker and a good representative of her generation, I feel. She's a young woman. She's very polite, well-spoken, intelligent. And she goes on to the James Whale. She's invited onto the James Whale show. Now, James Whale is the UK's version of what used to be called the shock jock. So in America, you have that dude. What is he called? The dude with the big curly hair. I can't remember his name. I'm sure you. I can't remember. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. Well, this was the UK's version of that back in the day, and he has a show on Talk TV, and he has his sidekick here is a dude called, I think he's called Ash, something like that. And she's coming on to give the leftist perspective, their internationalist perspective, the humanitarian perspective, and obviously being a communist and representative of the Communist Party of Britain perspective. And these two fucking gammons can't handle her, and she just conducts herself with all the grace that she was obviously raised with, and she's a credit to her mother and her father. That's what I say. So they can't handle her, and they cut her off. These two arseholes, grown men, older than me, they need a safe space. They need a wee safe space because Fiona is saying the mean nasty words to them, and the mean nasty words are just words that they disagree with. Right? Remember all these fuckers were slagging off students and young people for demanding safe spaces. By the way, the whole safe space thing was never what it was portrayed as. The safe space was a concept about a space within any university where you can debate and ask awkward questions without being criticised, without being cancelled, without being ostracised or accused of actually holding the ideas formed that you're saying within the question. So you can ask an awkward question without being, cancelled or attacked. I'm just asking a question. And that's what the original safe space was. It's a safe space. You can ask whatever you want. And then it got morphed out. That idea then was thrown out across the media as students being so fragile that they can't handle words. And now these two fucking gammon pricks are displaying exactly the sort of behaviour that they, no doubt, and I have seen and heard them do it over the years, criticise young people for being so fragile that they can't handle speech. Check it out. This goes on for about 12, 13 minutes, but I'm not going to play you that. This is just the last minute and a half of this where they cut her off. But I think I'm going to go, I know where the video is, I have it saved, and I think I might go through it with you on the next episode. It's well worth doing. And it's kind of infuriating, but I sat down to watch this with my wife, Janie, and she couldn't handle it. She turned that off. She lasted about 7 minutes. No, they're doing my head. They're driving her mad. The bastards. Talking to this beautiful young woman like this. So well spoken and so polite and so nice. Check it out.
The British government, which is supporting and facilitating a genocide right now, are responsible for conflict. Because it's true.
Why don't you want to live in a communist country? Why don't you want to live in a communist?
There is no communist country for me to
If
go.
Hang on, just a minute. If you don't like living in this country, which obviously you don't, why don't you go and live somewhere where it's better than Britain? You've slagged us off.
Why would I live somewhere else when
because
I can
obviously
change
you don't like this country.
Because I can. Why would I live somewhere else when I can change the country that I live in?
You can't change this country.
Okay.
You won't change it.
Well, let's wait and see. Because the truth
the
is,
wokists are going,
so
and we are getting back to how we used to be.
The defining feature of politics in this country is that young people hate the political establishment. They hate the status quo.
I have been young. It's not all about young people. Why do you think young people have more of a say?
It's not just young people. The majority
you think young people are more important.
The majority
of people don't agree with you.
The majority
you just
of
laugh
people in Britain don't support what the government is doing in Gaza.
Why do you think this is funny, by the way?
They don't support.
If you had a sensible and serious face, I'd take you more seriously. But you've smiled, and you're doing it now throughout what I think is one of the most dangerous times. I think we are on the verge of the Third World War.
Right.
And I don't consider people like you will be of any use whatsoever, because you get called up to go to the forces, you won't go, will you?
Now, look at her. She is a beautiful young woman in the prime of life, in the full flower of youth. Look at that fucker there. That fat, baldy bastard. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be disparaging against the follically challenged, or the lovers of cakes. But give me my fucking break. Either of the two of those were handed a backpack and a rifle. They'd drop dead of shock. It wouldn't last 2 fucking minutes. I'd take my chances with her any day over those two fucks.
I don't think we're on the verge of the Third World War.
Well, I think we are, particularly with people who are behaving in the way you are. But it's funny, is it? It's funny. Do you know how many people get killed in a world war?
Oh, so you do care about people dying.
I said that at the beginning.
I
care about.
You're a hypocrite. If you cared about people
dying,
thousands of people are dying today in Sudan.
So at the end there, he just fucking points at the camera, demands a break, goes to break, get her out of here, and they go to an ad break, hustle her out of the studio, and that's the end of that. So isn't that fucking absolutely breathtaking? These people are so fragile, they're so pampered, and they live so much in a fucking bubble, they can't handle a 20-something young woman who's politely challenging what they're saying, and their instant position, and their de facto position is one of prickly attack and outrage. That's just what that's the way they live. That's the way they deal with this. They can't argue with the woman. They can't debate her. They can't disagree with her. They can't. And when they come up with positions and ideas that they don't agree with, they attack her personally. That fucking arsehole that was sitting beside James Whale, I can't remember what his name, Ash something. He's literally going, he's sneering, like mocking her. This is a grown man. She is challenging their positions and their responses to mock her. It's pathetic. So, here is my friend and yours, Midwestern Marks, Eddie. I can't remember this dude's name, but he's fucking awesome. You want to check him out. And this is his response to Israel responds to the ICC ruling them to stop their assault on Rafah by bombing the refugee camp. So this is what we've been talking about for most of this podcast, obviously, as Biden continues to shield them from international criticism. So this is Eddie's take on that.
Earlier today, I covered the International Court of Justice ordering Israel to halt their assault on the Palestinian city of Rafah, and I said it still remains to be seen what Israel's response will be. However, we now know that not only did Israel refuse to stop bombing Rafah, but they actually intensified their attacks, with one of the major targets being Jabalia refugee camp, where many displaced Palestinians are staying now that their homes in northern Gaza have been destroyed. And it's not just a few Palestinians, it's tens of thousands of them who have had their homes completely wiped out by bombs, only to flee to the south to get bombed again. And not only has the US completely ignored the ICC's rulings about their special ally Israel, but they've actively pushed back against these rulings and tried to shield Israel from any kind of accountability. Because when it comes to the United States government and their capitalist imperialist allies, they think that they're above international law. International law only applies to their enemies like Putin. And this leads to the most insane hypocrisy, where politicians like Biden are scolding Putin for violating international law while allowing Israel to unalive 13,000 children and 33,000 people. The struggle that the Palestinians are waging in the Middle East is the same struggle that we're fighting here in the United States as organized American workers. We are both fighting against the same empire.
And that's the point. That's what I'm trying to illustrate to you over the past few weeks when we're talking about illustrating with the students and their uprisings and what's going on, why they're trying to shut down TikTok, why you can't share your videos on the social media platforms, etc., etc. That's what it is. We're fighting the empire. It's the same empire. And this is why we have solidarity, as well as the obvious, we can't abide the evil and the tyranny that's being, that the Palestinians are having to endure. As well as that, and we are human beings, and watching these poor people suffer as much as a human being can suffer. We don't want to see that, but we got to remember where it's all coming from. It's all coming from the same place. It's all coming from the same empire. It's all coming from the same establishment interests. So there we go. And by the way, that's another account you could follow if you wanted to. Midwestern Marks, and that guy Eddie, he had his top off there. He's a fucking unit, that boy. By the way, he's a proper wrestler. I don't mean like a WWF wrestling. I mean like a proper, Greco-Roman type. Those boys are as tough as fucking nails, and Eddie is, by all accounts, quite the wrestler, and he's a unit. But there we go. So I'm going to do this little. I found this little one for you. Yeah, it's just a little post I want to read to you about. this guy Jason Hinkle. I don't know who he is. I've seen his name. I should know who he is. It's not Jackson Hinkle. It's not that guy. It's another guy, Jason Hinkle. And I want to give you this as well. This is just another talking point that you can utilize when you're having discussions with people about capitalism versus socialism, etc., etc. These things. These are just these sort of, how do we debate these things how do we have these discussions without, you know that leftism can be so booky and wordy, and you have to go to do a fucking course to understand everything. And so we need to have these little things in our armoury whenever we're challenged. And this is one of the ones that comes up quite often. If you have these discussions with people, this will inevitably come up. So here we go. People often assume that capitalism is defined by markets and trade. But markets and trade have existed for thousands of years before capitalism. Okay, we know this, right? Good, yeah. Capitalism is only 500 years old. So what is distinctive about this economic system? 3 things. Well, more, but 3 for now. So there are many things. Obviously, he's just going to hit us. We like this. We like bullet points. We want to be concise. We want to have these things that we can remember, that we can deploy whenever we need them. So the first thing there, he said there's 3 things. I'm going to say there's 4 things. The first of the 4 is that initial point. Capitalists say that there's no such thing, that they use things like the free market. We're going to get into that. But there was always a marketplace. People always made things. People always bought things and sold things. People always bought things off other people and sold them to someone else as a classic middleman. These are things that happened, have always happened. But capitalism would have you believe that it invented them. So let's, get that. There we go. So here we go. First and most importantly, it is defined by the enclosure of artificial scarcity. Okay? Artificial scarcity. The origins of the capitalist system lie in a systematic effort by elites to restrict people's access to the commons and independent subsistence. The commons, the field to graze your sheep. Things like this, yeah. In order to render them reliant on wage labour for survival. That's us. That's where we are. That's why us socialists consider ourselves to be captured by capitalism. Oh, look at the socialist with his iPhone. What the fuck are you going to do? What are you supposed to not live? Not have a life? Not live in the world that exists around you? Over the past 500 years, this has taken the form of privatization of commons, forced dispossession and destruction of subsistence economies, particularly in the colonies, taxing people in a currency they do not have in order to induce them to seek wages in that currency. Okay? So, I'm not going to read the whole thing again. It is defined by the enclosure and an artificial scarcity and the privatization of the commons. That's number 1, okay? This continues today with attempts to ensure an artificial scarcity of access to essential goods such as housing, healthcare, education, transit, and so on. Goods that could be very easily provided at high quality on a universal public basis. Where universal public goods do exist, these have usually been won by long-standing struggles by labour movements and other progressive forces, including the anti-colonial movement. I'm going to sneeze. Ooh, excuse me. Oh, that was nice. I like that. So, second, capitalism is organised around and dependent on perpetual expansion. Very important that you understand this. Meaning ever-increasing production of commodified goods. It is the only intrinsically expansionary economic system in history. Meaning it basically has a crisis if it doesn't continually expand. Crucially, under capitalism, the purpose of increasing production is not primarily to meet human needs, but rather to extract and accumulate profit. That is the overriding objective. It is also the main objective of innovation. It is important to distinguish here between small businesses which quite often operate with a steady state and use value logic, and which obviously preceded capitalism. So basically what came before capitalism, small businesses just using value logic to determine what's this worth, how much can I get for it, who wants it, da-da-da-da-da. Not a fake scarcity, not creating a fake scarcity, you know. Anyway, on with the thing. And corporations. So it is important to distinguish here between small businesses, which quite often operate within a steady state, use value logic, and which obviously preceded capitalism, and corporations, whose main objective is expansion and accumulation, which define the capitalist era. To sustain the process of perpetually increasing surplus accumulation, capital requires an ever-increasing quantity of inputs, labour and nature, and requires that these inputs be obtained as cheaply as possible. This introduces a constant pressure to depress real wages and attack environmental protections whenever possible. In the absence of countervailing political forces, the result is a system that, left to itself, automatically generates inequality and ecological breakdown in one. This is why environmentalism has to be unshackled from capitalism. I consider myself to be an eco-socialist. I am concerned about the environment, and I'm a socialist. I see these two things as being the same. And within economics, there's this thing called externalities. And the externalities within the production are the things that affect the price that are outside the production process, right? Within capitalism, we have use of nature, destruction of the environment, a smoke going up into the sky from a factory, a plume, which doesn't get paid for in the final product. So the product costs 10 things, but if you were to pay for the cleanup or for the restoration of the environment after the production of the product, it would cost 20 things. So capitalism is using nature itself as a part of your labour, and nature is what it is exploiting, and the externalities are the things that don't get dropped in to the melting pot that makes up what the thing costs to make. Okay, so here we go. Sorry. Finally, number 3. Finally, capitalism is notable for precluding democratic decision making. Even in countries that prize political democracy, democratic principles are rarely allowed to operate in the sphere of production, where decisions are made overwhelmingly by those who control capital. There's no democracy in your workplace. That's what this is. The result is that the decisions about what to produce, for what purposes, for whose benefit, and under what conditions are generally made in the narrow interests of the capitalist class. Workers and people actually doing the production rarely get a voice at all. It is worth pondering how our production priorities and our treatment of labour and nature might be different under conditions of economic democracy. Existing evidence suggests that democratic conditions lead to less exploitation, more equality, and more care for the ecology. If we had a say in the workplace, say for example the farms around here, would we who live on the shores of Loch Ness, would we be content with allowing the cost through our production, the destruction of the loch, something that we treasure, or would we do something about it? Well, of course we would do something about it. We would stop it. It wouldn't start. It wouldn't be there in the first place. We wouldn't let it happen. Oh, but then you wouldn't be able to grow all that. But yes, you fucking would. There are other ways. That's what's so tragic about this. It's not necessary. It's just about greed. So, in sum, the tendency to equate capitalism with markets and trade naturalizes a system that is not natural and prevents us from having a clear-eyed view of how it operates and how we might want to do things differently. The more I referred sorry, there's just nearly what have I done? I've closed it off. Pish. I just clicked away from it there just as I was getting to the end. So there we go. So he says here, I'm going to bypass that one. We can have a democratic economy organised around meeting human needs at a high standard, where production is socially just and ecologically regenerative. Such a system is possible, but it will require a political movement to bring it into being. So there we go. What do you think of that? Does that make sense? Check all that out. It's really good stuff, isn't it? I like it. So, onwards, we're going to finish this video. Now, this probably is going to get taken down off YouTube, in which case, if it does, you're not going to hear the Macklemore song. I'm going to, because I'm going to have to then go back to the video, cut the Macklemore bit out, and re-upload it without that. So if this just skips to the end, that's what's happened, okay? So check this out. Do you know who Macklemore is? I don't know who Macklemore is. I never heard of the dude. Now, Macklemore is a big deal rapper. And I have heard of him. But my knowledge of rap music and hip-hop, it's sort of very 90s based. I am a huge fan of Cypress Hill, as you know, and Public Enemy. And NWA and 90s hip hop is kind of where I get off when it starts going into like a bit of Eminem and all that sort of stuff. But when it starts, all that modern stuff is fucking pure piss. So this dude took me by surprise. I went and checked out some of his stuff since finding this song, and it's actually really good. He's really funny. There's a guy called Macklemore, and he's released this song called Hines Hall. Hines is the young girl who was on the phone call that was massacred in the car. Do you remember? She was used as bait, and then by the IOF, and the paramedics that went to get her were executed as well. And then she was finally targeted in the car that she couldn't get out of. Her family was in the car with her, and they'd been killed. And she is the young lady who we the people renamed Lord Lurgan Memorial Park to Hines Park in her memory. We did that a few weeks ago. So Macklemore, anyway, to the point, Macklemore released this song, and it is fucking fantastic. So go to your Spotify, your Tidal, whatever. All the money goes to Gaza, by the way. I haven't bought it yet, so I will have to do that. I've just reminded myself I need to do that. He released this song, and it is fucking spot on. He calls out everybody. Nobody gets away. For a moment, you think they're going to excuse some, Democratic Joe Biden shit lib. No. He gets it both barrels. Check this out.